There's a moment in early Dragon Ball when Goku leaves his tiny mountain home for the first time. Up until then, his world has been nothing but forests, rivers, and the occasional talking animal. And then, suddenly, he's seeing cities, airships, and people who don't even know what a Dragon Ball is. It's that moment when the edges of your world suddenly get pushed out, and you realize everything you knew was just one small corner of something massive. That feeling doesn't hit often in life. As we get older, we start to think we know where the walls are. We stop testing the limits. We stop wondering what's just past the horizon. When I was 4 years old, I slid a strange blue demo disc into my PlayStation and met a small purple dragon. And for the first time since Goku left the mountain, I felt the edges of my world expand again. Let's talk about Spyro, and why there's really no other game that captures the same vibe. Spyro the Dragon was one of the earliest moments in my childhood that filled me with a kind of wonder and awe I didn't even have words for. I was only 4 years old, hadn't even started kindergarten yet, but I vividly remember booting up my old PlayStation, sliding in this weird blue demo disc with a giant 8 on it, and watching it load into a collection of demos. The first one, Spyro the Dragon. I was just a clueless little kid. I didn't know what a demo was, or even what a dragon was, but I saw that, what I called at the time, a cool-looking purple horsey, and hit start. I still remember that title theme playing as a camera floated over the artisan world, the skybox glowing like a painted sunset. It hit me with this euphoric, dreamlike vibe I couldn't explain. The demo only had 3 levels: the artisan homeworld, Stone Hill, and Dark Hollow. But that alone was enough to spark my imagination like wildfire. I stared out over the hills of Dark Hollow, wondering what kinds of creatures lived just beyond those hills in the skybox. There's something magical about being that young. You're still figuring out how the real world even works. You don't understand boundaries or limitations yet. As far as you're concerned, every fictional world has to exist somewhere out there. I didn't know video games had boundaries. If I could glide to a platform, that meant I could go there, no questions asked. Every level felt like a giant sandbox, which was perfect because Spyro, especially the first game, actually rewarded exploring outside the expected path. But here's the thing. Spyro didn't feel magical because I was a kid. It felt magical because the game was designed to feel that way. And to this day, very few games have pulled off that same blend of freedom, atmosphere, and pure vibe. Most 3D platformers at the time had one of 2 flavors: tight linear obstacle courses or open-ended sandboxes with a camera-induced vertigo. But Spyro was something else. It found this perfect middle ground, a world that felt huge but navigable, open but intuitive, challenging but chill. You weren't just going from point A to point B. You were gliding through sweeping vistas, chasing thieves through caves, charging sheep for fun, and fighting hidden pockets of treasure tucked behind waterfalls or up on distant ledges you thought were just background art. The game invited you to break it a little, to push against the edges, and more often than not, it rewarded you for trying. That's why no other game really hits the same. Not because of nostalgia, not because Spyro is underrated or forgotten, but because it was built on this very specific design philosophy, one that wanted to make you feel like the world was bigger than the level. Like you were uncovering secrets, not just in the game, but in the air itself. And the music, don't even get me started yet. Stewart Copeland's soundtrack wasn't just background, it was a mood. It gave Spyro rhythm, a soul, and an attitude that made even the quietest levels feel alive. And that's before you even get to places like Magic Crafters or Dreamweavers, where the surrealism just goes full throttle.
Dry Canyon rewards good gliders. You are a good glider, eh, Spyro?
I was born to glide. You've reached the highest point in Clifftown. You can get to almost anywhere from here. If I were you, I'd use that whirlwind there.
Supercharge will get you to new places here in Lofty Castle too. See where it takes you.
The worlds in Spyro the Dragon feel like they came straight out of a lucid dream, where logic takes a back seat to vibe and design decisions feel like instinct rather than calculation. You can tell the developers were beginners, but in the best way possible. There's this beautiful kind of naivete in how the levels are built. Not in a bad way, more like a raw, unfiltered creativity where no one was worried about realism or cohesive world building. The goal wasn't to simulate a place, it was to evoke a feeling. And every homeworld feels like a different emotion trapped inside a playable diorama. Artisans feels like a cozy watercolor painting brought to life. It's pastoral and warm, like the opening line of a bedtime story. You don't spawn into a mission, you wake up into a world. The castle in the distance doesn't need an explanation. The dragons don't need lore, even though they had it. It just makes sense in the logic of a dream. Then you get to places like Dreamweavers and the surrealism kicks in full force. Floating islands, enemies that morph sizes, creepy laughing jack-in-the-boxes. It feels like the devs just went, what if? Over and over. And somehow, it worked. It's not grounded, it's enchanted. Even the darker areas like Dark Passage or Nasty's World feel more eerie than threatening. It's the same dream logic where even danger feels curious rather than scary. You're not running from monsters, you're exploring them. And none of it is over-designed. There are no mini-maps, no quest markers, no side objectives stacked on side objectives, just you, Spyro, and the world that wants you to look around, try things, and get a little lost. You know how most modern games feel like they're worried you'll get bored? Spyro trusted you. It gave you open space and let your imagination fill in the blanks. And maybe that's what makes it feel so surreal in hindsight. It wasn't trying to be timeless, it just was. And somehow, that makes it feel timeless.
Well done, Spyro! Keep up the good work and I know you'll fulfill your destiny!
Destiny? I just want to kick some—
Just toast those enemies and collect the treasure!
You know, I think you just might be the dragon to defeat Nasty Nork!
That's me, all right. Looks like I got some things to do.
Spyro the Dragon, you've defeated Gnasty Gnorc, collected the dragon eggs, saved all the dragons, and recovered every bit of treasure in the Dragon Kingdom. How do you feel?
I feel fired up, Bob.
But none of that dreamy, surreal magic would have worked without Spyro himself. There's a reason I didn't just remember the worlds. I remembered the purple lizard with an attitude. Spyro wasn't just a blank slate for the player to project onto. He had personality, and that mattered. He was energetic, cocky, a little snarky, and absolutely bursting with confidence for a dragon that couldn't even fly yet. He was Black Air Force incarnated into a purple reptile, and that's what sold it for me. He didn't act like a noble fantasy hero or a chosen one. He wasn't brooding or dramatic. Spyro acted like a kid, like me. He ran fast, headbutted everything that moved, cracked one-liners at the older dragons, and tackled every problem like it was a fun challenge instead of a serious quest. He didn't need to be serious, because the world wasn't. It was playful, weird, and he matched it beat for beat. That balance between Spyro's hyper energy and the world's calm, dreamy atmosphere is what made it feel so alive. You'd be in this quiet field with soft music and wind blowing. Then suddenly, you're yeeting yourself off a ledge mid-glide, charging into a sheep, or chasing a screaming egg thief around a spiral tower. And Spyro's having a blast the whole time. That attitude was contagious. Even his voice, delivered with that late 90s slight raspy Saturday morning cartoon vibe, was perfect. Not too cool, not too annoying, shut up, just cheeky enough to make you smirk every time he talked back to a dragon elder or gloated about beating a boss. He wasn't trying to be cool, he was trying to have fun. And in a world that already felt magical, that sense of fun was everything.
This guy thinks he's so cool. You don't know what it's been like listening to him over and over.
Well, I had basically the rock band. I had a guitar, just played power chords, shang, shang, and a basic rock drum set, kick, snare, hi-hat, and a Hammond organ, and a pumping bass. Those were the basic rock elements. which I augmented with samples from the Distorted Reality sample library, which was the cool sample library of the day. I'm sure they got whole new ones now. And so I had your basic rock instruments with this other cool atmospheric stuff to go with it, depending on the vibe of the level.
Stewart Copeland didn't just compose the soundtrack for Spyro the Dragon, he defined its soul. And that's wild when you think about it, because Copeland wasn't some typical video game composer. He was a drummer for The Police, a punk-influenced progressive rock band with reggae rhythms. So when he came in to score this whimsical game about a little purple dragon, you'd expect some kind of generic fantasy fare, right? Nope. What we got was this absolutely off-the-wall, synth-heavy, percussion-driven, jazzy prog rock fantasy fever dream. And somehow, it worked flawlessly. These weren't ancient noble dragons. They were lazy artisans, balloonists, punky metalheads, dreamweavers, and bayou weirdos. And Copeland's music matched that vibe bar for bar. Where most fantasy games lean into sweeping orchestras, choirs, or solemn melodies, Spyro's soundtrack said, nah, let's slap a distorted guitar riff over a xylophone line and a jungle breakbeat and see what happens. And it never felt random. Each track felt like it was actively responding to the level design. Almost like it was improvising around the shapes, colors, and skyboxes. But what really sticks with me is how it matched Spyro's personality. That punky, restless, anti-authority energy. It's in the drums. It's in the weird chord progressions. It's in the fact that the music never tells you how to feel. It just vibes with you while you figure it out. Check it. Was a deconstruction of what fantasy music was supposed to sound like, and honestly, it still feels fresh to this day. Other games tried to imitate Spyro's look or its level structure, but no one has come close to capturing that exact sound. Because that sound was Spyro, just as much as the fire breath, the gliding, or the sheep.
Okay, rolling.
Oh, it's been peaceful here in the 5 worlds, or is it 6? For a dragon's age. We now have 12,000 treasure, or is it 14,000?
Thanks for releasing me, Spyro. You have no idea how long I've been trapped in crystal. And, neither do I. Who are you again?
I'm out of here.
The older I got, the more I started to realize something I never noticed as a kid. Spyro doesn't rush you. Outside of the flight levels, there are no timers, no looming death traps, no stress-inducing music, no constant barks telling you to go here, do that, hurry up. The game encourages you to just exist in the world for a while. Take a breath, look around, glide off a random ledge just to see where it goes, chase a sheep. It's like every part of the game is telling you it's okay to slow down. And that's rare. Even today, in a world flooded with open world checklists and 200-hour RPGs, Spyro still feels refreshingly calm. Not boring, just peaceful. And when I revisit it now as an adult, it hits even harder. Because when you're burnt out, overwhelmed, or just need a day to reset your brain, Spyro the Dragon is a perfect mental health game. There's no pressure to win, no competitive ladder to climb. You're just a purple dragon in a soft, surreal world, gliding through open skies and collecting shiny things while vibing to some offbeat progressive rock. And that's enough. And sure, some people roll their eyes and say, it's just a goofy kid's game, don't overthink it. But those same people will turn around and write essays about how Doom or Dark Souls changed their lives. If games can matter when they're punishing or violent, then they can matter just as much when they're gentle and kind. Because really, everybody has something like that in their life. For some people, it's sports. For others, it's a TV show, a band, a hobby, even a favorite chair in the house. From the outside, those things can look small, even silly. But they matter because they give us comfort, routine, and joy when we need it the most. Spyro just happens to be mine. What used to feel like a fun game from my childhood slowly became one of my comfort games. A place I go to when the world feels too loud. And it's funny. When I was 4, I didn't think about any of this. I just liked the purple horsey and the fireworks. But now, I appreciate the craft, the atmosphere, the restraint, the fact that Spyro doesn't shove plot in your face or try to motivate you every second. It lets you explore. It lets you rest. It gives you space. And I think that's why I love it, even more now than I did back then. Spyro was ahead of its time. In a lot of ways, we've only just caught up. Spyro didn't just age well because of nostalgia. It burned its own trail, with a spark of creativity that still glows decades later. And I think that's what I love most about it. Spyro didn't just give me a game to play, it gave me a place to go. A place that's still there, still waiting, still weird, still warm, still full of dragons and sheep and secrets and skies. And even after all these years, every time I glide off a cliff in Artisans, every time I hear that first music cue, every time I charge headfirst into a world that doesn't ask anything of me, it feels like I'm coming home. That's my perspective as a player. What about from the people who actually built this world? To close things out, here's some reflections from developer Oliver Wade.
The Worlds of Spyro were designed to keep the player engaged and fun. Every choice you make should lead you somewhere new to explore, and if you really take the time to look around, you should be able to discover little secrets filled with gems. The designers spent a lot of effort crafting challenges, from platforming to enemy characters, to make you feel a sense of accomplishment when you finally make it past difficult tests like the ramp in treetops or getting past Metalhead. But there's also joy in passing the easier challenges as well. One of the best things about Spyro's worlds is how they progress not only through the story, but in difficulty as well. We knew the audience for the game would be younger children, so the game starts out with a very clear goal of freeing the dragons, and some simple worlds to get you used to the gameplay and controls. But by the time you get to facing Nasty Nork at the end, you feel like you've mastered something really difficult. Although some people have trouble with them, the speed runs are incredibly fun to play. There's nothing as joyful in Spyro as shaving a few tenths of a second off your time on a perfectly executed path. Spyro works as a character for a few simple reasons. First, he's just cute. Even though he's a small dragon, he has very similar proportions to a puppy. Large head-to-body ratio, 4 short legs, and a very active tail. The horns and wings just add a little bit of magic. Those attributes are taken to heart with the animation. Spyro feels like a puppy when he's moving. Those quick small steps when he's charging and the little prancing steps when he's moving more slowly. The side rolls are especially adorable. There's also a really great feeling of responsiveness to the character, which leads to being connected to him. Lastly, his personality is, I guess spunky's the best word. He's confident and aggressive without being totally obnoxious. Spyro can work as a mental health game on a few levels. One, once you get the hang of the controls, especially after multiple playthroughs, it can be thoroughly relaxing. The brilliant soundtrack by Stewart Copeland gives the game a gentle atmosphere. The color palette is soothing and peaceful across most of the levels, with shades of pastels. Even the rhythmic pounding of Spyro's feet gives the player a sense of familiarity. Overall, it's just joyful to play. 2, completing the simple tasks and collecting the gems gives a very satisfying sense of accomplishment. It feels great to release the Elder Dragons from their captivity and to find that last hidden gem on an island you had to glide to from just the right platform.
If you made it all the way to the end of the video, genuinely thank you so much. I know this is a long one, and it really means a lot that you spend that much time with me. If you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more videos like this, maybe consider subscribing. It helps me out a ton and lets me keep making stuff like this. But honestly, just the fact that you're here listening is more than enough. Thank you.